the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, he has claimed that the party will seek to strike a returns deal, basically, with the EU when it comes to tackling the small boats crisis. He's talking tough as well, because it's not just about EU returns deals, he says. He's going to basically treat the people traffickers like, I quote, terrorists, he says. He would freeze assets and restrict their movements and all the rest of it. There's been lots of concerns, though, Martin, for a few different levels. Some people saying, this is just about Keir Starmer showing his overall ambition is to bring us closer to the EU, perhaps to take us back. Other people saying, hang on just a nanosecond, the EU are not going to do deals with us out of the goodness of their heart. So if you're going to be returning people, there's going to be an awful lot of people coming this way as well. What do you make to it all?
Well, Keir Starmer was the architect of the people's vote to reverse Brexit. That was his modus operandi for 3 years. He's a rejoiner in disguise, and today the mask has slipped. This deal is backdoor open borders. It's as simple as that. If you bow to Brussels and do a deal with Brussels, a return deal, then it's prig quo quo, one in, one out. And...
Is it? How do you know that?
Because that's the way that Macron has always said. If Britain wants to negotiate in terms of returns to the EU bloc from Britain, as in send them back to France, then we must do a deal direct with Brussels and not with France directly. And the numbers are eye-watering. You know, it's going to be a minimum of 30,000, potentially 100,000 we must take, because the illegals that come into the EU bloc via the Mediterranean, via Greece, we've seen there's been 7,000 arrive in 48 hours in one Italian island alone. We must take, as a member state, remember we voted to leave, 12% of that total. What is the total? Well, we don't know. It's an elastic total, but this deal would sign us up to that. I think this is a terrible deal for Britain, and it underlines the fact that we weren't sure where Starmer stood. Now we know, and he's more interested in Davos, Macron, Interpol, and now cozying up to Brussels. This confirms everything the conspiracy theorists said, and that is Starmer is basically a rejoiner in disguise. This is a terrible deal for Britain.
Do you agree?
Well, I think it's worth a try. I think everything's worth a try because the government has failed abysmally to do anything about this. And I suspect a Labour government will fail abysmally to do much about it. Mm-hmm. But I think we've got to try every option. And I'm quite willing to go ahead with trying barges and Rwanda. They don't seem to be working so far, and they're only tiny numbers anyway. Mm. In Starmer's case, at least he is liked within the EU because everybody knows he's a Remainer, as Martin says, and he may be able to get a better deal than anything the government can do. But I think we have to accept that tens of thousands of people will be coming to this country, be it in boats or through other means, simply because the pressures from Africa and the Middle East are so great. Mm. And let's be honest about this. If you lived in Afghanistan or Somalia or Libya and you were ambitious and energetic like you both are, you too would be coming on that route, as Michael Heseltine said in a speech the other day. And so would I. We've just got to get used to it and absorb it. And global warming, of course, is not going to help because it's going to make much of the equatorial area between the tropics unbearable to live in. I
would want a better life. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Who wouldn't? If anyone looks in the mirror and answers, honestly, would you want the best conditions for your life? Anyone that says no is either a bit daft or they're a liar. So yes, I agree. Everyone wants the best conditions, but surely then it's for the UK to determine, well, what's on offer then for those people? Because you're going to pick and choose. People are like some a la carte menu. They're sitting there and going, right, well, I've been to this country. I'm now in France. That's not good enough for me. So I'm going to pick the UK. So something is making those people choose this country over remaining in France.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question as to why they want to come here. I think it's partly the language. English is a much more universal language.
Michael, sorry, Mike, that doesn't wash with me, because if everyone spoke English, why on earth do we spend so much money with translators then?
Well, maybe when they arrive here, they pretend not to speak English. They do disguise where they come from. But I mean, that's one. I think the fact we don't have identity cards doesn't help. And I would be in favour of introducing identity cards. But I think we have to do some kind of deal. If we just try and do it on our own, Michael, we're not going to make any progress.
Where would they get their ID card from?
Well, I don't mean British ID cards for the migrants. I mean, if there were ID cards for the existing population, it would be less attractive to come to this country than those countries which already have ID cards.
OK, so there's a reason that these people are living under tarpaulins in Calais and then are put in a 4-star hotel in Britain. There's a reason they get free healthcare on the NHS and they don't get any of that in France. It's a preferable nation. Now, if you say that it's our duty to house and home anybody in the world that wants a better life, let's just do away with passports, do away with borders. You know, we'll choose Britain because
Clearly we cannot say everybody's welcome. But I think we have to accept that it's going to happen. Unless you're going to have machine gun posts around the coastline of Britain.
Australia dealt with this, that they stopped the boats because they had a robust, joined-up policy and they stuck to it and it won general elections. Now, one thing I do agree...
All right, but they did it by shipping people off to other countries. People have tried that here, and the only one they've come up with is Rwanda, which has an appalling human rights record, and people will be escaping from Rwanda and making their way back here.
Well, I thought it was only the other day that a Rwandan tourist board was sponsoring, what was that football club? I don't know if they still do it. What is it?
Arsenal.
Yes. I mean, so it's not exactly like some weird, fared-well torture chamber, is it?
Well, it does treat dissidents pretty badly, does Rwanda. And after all, many of these people come here because of political human rights abuses where they come from.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I just want to keep responding to you, but I'm going to pack it in. Just say that last sentence about appalling human rights abuse. Well, if you've been abused that badly, why would you leave your wife, your kids and your sister and all the rest of it behind? But anyway...
Well, the idea, presumably, is that they will bring them in eventually too.
Of course they will.
Do you give Keir Starmer some credit there? Because one of the other angles, we've just spoken about EU returns things, but the other angle about this is he reckons he's going to get on top of the people traffickers, he's saying, about, right, we're going to designate them as terrorists, we're going to seize their assets and all the rest of it. Good idea or not?
Well, it's inoperable. It won't work.
How do you know?
Well, because he says we'll do the same as we do with drug dealers. Well, show me how the war on drugs is being won in Britain anywhere. It's been worsened by letting loads of Albanians in who now run the cocaine racket in London and have taken over major cities. That's been allowed by this open borders policy. The notion that we can stop terrorists, immigrants, by treating them like terrorists when we can't even stop the war on drugs is for the birds. And I repeat again, Starmer is showing his true colours, and this is a de facto open borders policy. But I do agree that the Conservatives cannot revert to what they did in 2019. So, God, everyone's going to be worse if Corbyn's in power. The Tories have been in power for 13 years. They made a complete hash of controlling our borders, a plague on all their houses.
I think we have to accept that there are going to be tens of thousands of people coming to this country no matter what we do. I mean, you talk about there being a de facto open borders policy under Labour. That is what we have under this government.
I agree.
And it will continue, and it will get worse as the years go ahead because of global warming, and we have to prepare for it, and we have to accept that it has a huge knock-on effect on our public services and housing, but nobody that I've come across has come up with a decent solution to this.
I totally agree, and that is why I think we need a political revolution, the none-of-the-above party.
Well, everyone, if you ask me, my humble opinion, everyone's looking in the wrong place. Everyone's talking about when these people come to UK shores, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stick them in Rwanda, we'll stick them over there, we're going to stick them back to the EU. Well, excuse me if I'm missing the point massively, but why aren't anyone focused on actually stopping people from reaching this country in the first place? Adam?